Prince never trusted the industry. But the night I watched him sit silently behind a row of glowing monitors, recording one of Diddy's private parties from a hidden room beneath his own mansion, I realized just how deep the secrets really went. What we saw that night changed everything. High-profile celebrities, disturbing rituals, and something far more sinister than fame. What you're about to hear is deeply disturbing. I'm going to expose the dark, demonic truth about the music industry. Prince never trusted the industry. But the night I watched him sit silently behind a row of glowing monitors, recording one of Diddy's private parties from a hidden room beneath his own mansion, I realized just how deep the secrets really went. This wasn't random. It wasn't a fluke. Prince, the video tech, and I, his sound guy, had been planning this for weeks. He called it the cleansing. He said it with that same soft voice he used in interviews, like it was poetry. But behind the velvet calm was something burning. He wasn't doing this for revenge. He was doing it for truth. For the people, he said. His voice was for the people. And this night was his final act of protest. The surveillance room was buried beneath a sealed floor in Paisley Park, lit only by the blue glow of 10 monitors, each locked onto hidden cameras spread across the mansion. Prince sat in the middle, legs crossed, drinking tea from a thin porcelain cup. He didn't blink much. The video guy, a quiet, wiry kid from out in Chanhassen, monitored footage and logs. I handled the sound feeds. The doorbell rang. The monitors flickered. They were here. The monitors flickered with shifting camera angles, ballrooms, lounges, the staircase. We watched it all from the surveillance bunker, 3 stories beneath Paisley Park. Prince sat unmoving. Mark adjusted camera feeds with twitchy fingers, logging timestamps and angles like muscle memory. I kept one eye on the waveforms for audio distortion, the other on the entrance feed. It was showtime. More black SUVs pulled up, one after another, the kinds with hidden plates and drivers who don't speak. What surprised me wasn't who arrived. It was how carefully they moved. Not flashy, not loud. Every one of them looked like they were trying not to be seen. A former child star turned billion-dollar brand arrived first, her eyes hidden behind pink glasses, shoulders tense. She didn't smile. Then came a man famous for his on-screen confidence, the kind who could flip a suit into a symbol. He paused at the gate, looked over his shoulder, then walked inside alone. We saw them all. An R&B crooner with a shaved head and soft voice. A daytime TV king with that unmistakable mustache. A family-friendly pop icon who hadn't even turned 18 yet. A mega producer who always wore dark sunglasses, even indoors. A world-famous preacher who was always talking about healing but looked visibly uncomfortable the moment he stepped through the door. None of them were allowed security. That was protocol. Mark zoomed in on the side cam again. We could see it clearly now. Each celebrity's team stopped at the door by a man in an earpiece, clipboard in hand. The exchange was polite, quiet, professional, but final. They were told simply, "You can't go in." Some bodyguards left without a fuss. Others protested quietly, then backed down. But a few, 3, maybe 4, stayed parked down the street, still visible in the far lens of our driveway cam, watching, waiting. "Something's off," Mark muttered. I didn't respond. My stomach was tightening. Then one of the side monitors caught something new. Diddy. He was walking the halls alone, inspecting rooms, dragging his fingertips along the velvet walls like he was feeling for something. He stopped outside a narrow corridor we knew well. Room 19, a small chamber with no windows, just a plush circular rug and an old ceiling fan. Diddy opened the door, slowly. "Oh yeah," he muttered. "This one's perfect for it." Then he vanished inside. My eyes snapped to the sound panel. Dead. The audio feed for room 19 had gone dark. I felt Prince lean forward before I even said a word. "It's down," I whispered. "I've got no feed in that room." Prince gave a single nod like he already knew. You'll have to reset it manually. The air in the room dropped a few degrees. Now? Now. I slipped out the surveillance bunker with nothing but a comm link and a small black utility pouch strapped under my shirt. The hallways above were glowing dim purple, Prince's standard mood lighting. Soft jazz echoed faintly through the walls. I moved fast but careful, like I'd done it 100 times. Room 19 was down a lesser-used corridor, past an unmarked stairwell and a locked music room. I reached for the door, slightly ajar, and slipped inside. Just as I knelt to reset the receiver panel hidden beneath a wall sconce, the door creaked open behind me. Footsteps, voices, one high, animated, familiar. I dove into the supply closet. Through the crack in the door, I saw him, Diddy, holding a plastic bin filled with what looked like baby oil, bottles of it. His face was lit with glee, giddy even. He was dancing, mumbling to himself. "Yeah, this is it. This is the spot," he whispered, bouncing in place. "Time to get the real party started." He set the box down in the center of the rug and spun around like a child at recess, humming, practicing motions with his hands, ritualistic, almost choreographed. There was no music playing. I didn't breathe. The closet air grew warm, humid. My heart beat in my ears like it wanted out. After a few minutes, he left, suddenly and without a word, leaving the door wide open behind him. I waited 10 seconds, then 20. Then I moved, silent, quick, focused. I hit the reset. The green light on the receiver blinked twice. Audio feed restored. By the time I slipped back into the surveillance bunker, Prince didn't even look at me. He just said, "Good." Mark pointed at the screen. "They're going into that room. All of them." Prince sipped his tea and whispered, "Now watch what they do when they think no one's watching." They moved like shadows, through the hallway, down the velvet-lined corridor, into room 19, one after another, heads low, lips tight, eyes unreadable. There were no smiles now, no music, no clinking glasses or laughter from the main floor. This wasn't a party anymore. It was something else. Prince didn't speak. He just leaned forward slightly as if listening for something beyond the monitors, something only he could feel. On screen, Diddy entered first. He opened the door wide like he was welcoming guests to a private showing. Behind him trailed a dozen others, actors, moguls, musicians, pastors. You'd know every face. Their brands were built on family, faith, and luxury. But tonight, they looked like ghosts. The overhead cam showed them encircling the room. The chandelier lens caught the subtle shifts in their posture, like they'd rehearsed this before. Then the preacher stepped forward. He moved to the center of the circle without a word and began to undress. First the blazer, then the shirt, carefully folded and placed on a velvet ottoman. He didn't look ashamed. He looked submitted. Someone handed Diddy a large bottle, thick, golden, and half-used. He popped the cap, poured the slick liquid into his hands, and began rubbing them together with childlike excitement. Then he approached the preacher, and with a strange, almost ceremonial precision, began coating him. Others followed, women in cocktail dresses, men in black suits, a pop star who just dropped a family-friendly album 3 months earlier. They each took turns rubbing oil across the preacher's back, chest, shoulders, scalp. Not sexual, not gentle, just methodical. The preacher knelt. A low hum began to rise, not from the speakers, not from the room mics, but from the mouths of those in the circle, chanting. At first it was incoherent, a mix of moans, single syllables, breath patterns. Then it formed into something ancient, rhythmic, unified. Their voices overlapped like loops. The lighting dimmed. One of them reached up and pulled the cord on the chandelier. Now it was just candlelight. Shadows spread across the walls like stains. The oil glistened across the preacher's body, now slick and glimmering like glass. He rocked slightly on his knees, head bowed, arms limp. Then the voices grew louder. The hum turned into something guttural, like a growl from deep beneath the floorboards. My stomach twisted. I adjusted the EQ on the audio board, but there was nothing to fix. It wasn't distortion. It was coming from them, or through them. The mood in the room changed. It wasn't a ritual anymore. It was a descent. A woman dropped her clutch. A man unbuckled his belt. One guest began spinning in place, eyes closed, mouthing something we couldn't hear, like he was in a trance. Someone else whispered, "Let it in." The preacher began to shake. His mouth opened in a silent scream. They kept chanting. They kept rubbing. The circle closed tighter. I turned away. Prince didn't. He stared with glassy eyes, as if every word they spoke was confirming something he already knew. I asked him, "What is this?" He said nothing. He didn't need to. Because whatever this was, it wasn't for show. It wasn't performance. It was communion. And whatever they were summoning in that room, it had already arrived. At first, I thought it was feedback. A low vibration, barely there, just beneath the chanting, beneath the murmurs and muffled gasps coming from room 19. I adjusted the levels, dialed out the top and bottom frequencies, soloed the ambient track. It was still there, but it wasn't distortion. It was intentional, a hum, deep, wet, like breath echoing through a drainage pipe, gutter-like and guttural, pulsing at irregular intervals. Not mechanical, not human, alive. I glanced at the monitor. The ritual had intensified. What was once slow and eerie was now frantic. The guests moved like dancers in a trance, shifting in rhythm to the humming that none of them seemed to be making. But all of them somehow obeyed. The preacher was now fully on the floor, face pressed into the rug, his body trembling violently. Others were dripping oil on him from above. Bottles clattered to the floor, half empty, hands shaking. In the surveillance room, the tension had turned physical. The video operator, Mark, had gone pale. His hand flew over his mouth. He pushed back from the console and stumbled toward the trash can. He didn't make it. He vomited into his hands, collapsing to the side as the bile hit the floor. His breath came in short, ragged bursts. I didn't blame him. I was sweating through my shirt, fingers locked around the volume knobs like they were lifelines. I leaned in, isolating the frequency again, feeding it through our secondary analyzer. That's when I saw it. The wave pattern didn't match any vocal spectrum. No vocal cords could produce it, no instrument, no mechanical hum. It existed in subharmonics, frequencies beneath frequencies, an impossible sound that made the hair on my arms stand on end. "Prince," I said quietly. "This isn't from them." He nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the screen. "I know." His voice was low, not afraid, but not calm either. It was something closer to reverence or grief. On the screen, one of the women had collapsed. She lay on her back, mouth wide open, eyes rolling back as another guest poured oil directly into her mouth, then leaned over and whispered something into her ear. The others moved around them like a current, chanting, groaning, some laughing in fits. Clothes were being peeled off, bodies intertwined. But it wasn't sex, it wasn't pleasure, it was frenzy, like they were being controlled. The chandelier above them swung slightly, though no one had touched it. Shadows danced across the walls in unnatural patterns. At one point, the preacher, still covered in oil, rose to his knees, lifted his hands, and screamed. But there was no sound. His mouth stretched wide. The feed showed it clearly, but our mics didn't pick it up. All we heard was the hum, and beneath it, if you listened hard enough, something else. A whisper, not in English, not in any language I knew, but I felt it in my spine, in my teeth, in my soul. "Turn it off," Mark begged, but Prince didn't move. He stared at the monitor with a face I'll never forget, tight, hollow, focused, like he'd known all along it would come to this. The ritual spiraled for another hour. Then, just like that, it stopped. The guests stood, silent, covered in oil and sweat and things I didn't want to name. They filed out slowly, one by one. No talking, no laughter, like they were leaving a church The preacher stayed behind, still on his knees, still shaking. By the time the sky shifted from black to bruised blue, the ritual had ended. No grand finale, no applause, just silence. The last of the guests exited room 19 like actors leaving a stage, expressionless, slow, deliberate. They didn't speak to each other, didn't even glance around. One of them walked barefoot down the hallway, trailing oil across the polished floor without a care. Another wiped their hands on a $1,000 jacket and vanished into the cold morning light. We watched every second, and when the final door closed, Prince stood up. He didn't say anything for a long time, just pressed his palms together and let out a breath, long and slow, like he'd been holding it for hours. Then he turned to me. "You didn't flinch," he said. I couldn't speak. My mouth was dry. My heart was still beating too fast. He stepped closer and put a hand on my shoulder. "I know that wasn't easy, but it matters. And I promise you, this doesn't end here. I'm going to take them down." His voice didn't shake. His eyes didn't waver. For a moment, I saw something I hadn't seen all night. Hope. We packed in silence. Hard drives, redundant copies, audio stacks, surveillance footage from every angle. No cloud storage, no wireless backups. Everything physical, tangible, off-grid. Prince locked the box himself and walked it to a hidden room I wasn't allowed to see. "Come back in a few days," he told me. "We'll clear the rest." I nodded. I didn't want to return, but I owed him. He had trusted me. 3 days later, I came back. Paisley Park was quiet. Too quiet. The staff was gone, or maybe they'd been told to stay away. The air felt heavier, like something had shifted in the house itself. I moved through the corridors alone, past empty rooms and darkened lights. The surveillance bunker door was unlocked. I stepped inside. It was exactly as we'd left it. Almost. The screens were off. The console dark. A few cables coiled neatly on the desk. My mics and a half-empty gear bag sat in the corner. I knelt to collect them. And that's when I felt it. A shift. Like someone had just walked into the room behind me. I turned. No one. But something pulled my attention to the mirror. There was one in the far corner of the room. I hadn't noticed it before. It was tucked behind a shelf of unused monitors, tall and narrow, its frame coated in dust. And in the reflection, I saw it. A figure. Standing at the edge of the room, where the darkness swallowed the wall. Tall, unmoving. Its body indistinct, like it was made of smoke that didn't want to be seen. But the eyes weren't smoke. They were open, locked on mine. I couldn't breathe. I turned my head. Nothing there. I looked back at the mirror, still there. It didn't move, didn't blink. It just watched. I don't know how long I stood there. Seconds, minutes. My body wouldn't obey. My feet felt bolted to the floor. Every instinct screamed to run, but I couldn't until it tilted its head. Only slightly, but it moved. And that was enough. I ran. Out of the room, through the hallway, out the side entrance and into my car, keys shaking in my hands. I didn't stop driving until I hit the freeway. I promised myself I'd never go back. Not to that mansion, not to that room, and definitely not to that mirror. I never saw Prince again. The last words he said to me, "I'm going to take them down," echoed in my head every day after I left Paisley Park. I didn't text. I didn't call. I didn't want to know what came next. I told myself the footage would speak for itself, that Prince had a plan, that someone smarter and stronger than me would carry it through. But deep down, I knew better. Years later, I woke up to the news alert. Prince found dead in an elevator. Fentanyl overdose, April 21st, 2016. My breath left my body. I sat there on the edge of my bed, reading the headline over and over, trying to make it make sense. Prince, meticulous, disciplined, in complete control of every detail in his life, was gone, just like that. And no one asked questions. There was no investigation, no pushback, just a string of news anchors nodding gravely and moving on. But I knew. I knew what we saw. I knew what we heard. And I knew that box of hard drives in the hidden room was gone long before they found him. I tried to move on. I changed my number, switched states, went back to boring freelance gigs. I stayed out of the industry, out of the spotlight. I thought maybe if I laid low, they'd forget. Then came the trial. Cassie Ventura. Her voice cracked through the courtroom audio like a knife. She described the parties, the oil, the rituals, the silence. She said names on the stand, names that had never been spoken out loud in rooms that public. I watched every second of her testimony on a shaky live stream with the volume all the way up in my heart and my throat. She mentioned a house, a room, hidden recordings. She didn't say Paisley Park. She didn't have to. They were watching me. I knew it the moment I heard her voice tremble and she said he wasn't the only one recording. My hands went cold. I turned off every light in the house, triple locked the doors. I unplugged my router, shut off my phone. Every night since, I've slept with one eye open. Not because I'm paranoid, because I know what they do to people who see. People like Prince, people like me. I haven't spoken to anyone from that night. I don't know where the videotech went, or if he even made it out clean. I don't ask questions anymore, but every few weeks, something happens. A black SUV I don't recognize sits at the corner of my block. An email hits my inbox with no subject, no content, just a timestamp. My dog will bark at nothing in the hallway. And sometimes when I walk past mirrors at night, I catch something behind me, watching. Not my reflection, something else. I know it sounds crazy, but I also know what I heard under that chanting, that hum, that thing that was never in the room, but somehow filled it. And I know they killed Prince for exposing it. I know I'm next. So if you're hearing this, if my voice is still online, if this story is still up, it means they haven't found me yet. But they will. They always do. And when they do, this tape might be the only thing left. If you want to help me, if you believe me, there's a link pinned at the top of the comments.